main event, Tom, of UFC 295. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. Vacant light heavyweight title on the line. I mean, forget the X's and O's for a minute. This is just beautiful, isn't it? This is like the best fight they could have made for this division.
Yeah, that was going to be my lead in as well, Joe. Really, can you make a more enticing matchup?
No.
In any of the heavier weight classes right now, is there a better fight out there?
What you mean, like 185, 205, 265?
Yeah, middleweight and up.
Oh, no, unless like Hamzat versus Whittaker really stirs you.
You're thinking like Hamzat versus. That's where I'm at as well, Joe. And that's the thing. These guys, they are both a Hamzat in their own right. You know, they really bring a brand with them, and that brand is pretty weird. It's a pretty weird brand for the modern UFC. We have evolved past the likes of Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. They aren't the kind of fighters you expect to see sat astride the top of the division. And yet here we are.
You mean like pure kickboxer versus guy who thinks he's a samurai?
Well, yeah, like all full offense, no defense. Balls to the wall, explosion from the beginning, no pacing. Like literally no defense on your exits, wild swings, unorthodox striking. These guys get found out before they get to the top, Joe. But it just hasn't happened for Jiri Prochazka. He sat there with an almost impervious record, 29 wins in his UFC career. In his MMA career. Few in the UFC. Vast majority of those by knockout. And he's fighting a man, you know, with no pedigree outside of kickboxing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay. We're going to go through both fighters. Let's start with the former champ Prochazka, who is the former champ only through injury. Vacated the title just under a year ago, leading up to his rematch with Glover Teixeira. Vacated the title due to a horrendous shoulder injury. What was your knowledge, thinking, feeling on Prochazka a year ago and maybe even a couple years ago? Like, what was the sort of standout thing that you thought about when you thought about Prochazka as a fighter at all? Like, did you ever see much of him in Rising before he got to the UFC, or were you aware of the name?
It's kind of one of those you hear, like, you know, whispers from the east, Joe. Rumours out there.
What is this, Michael Chandler?
Yeah, right. In some foreign fantasy league out there. That was my relationship with Jiri. And on watching his debut against Volkan Ozdemir, I thought, my God, this guy's going to get chinned, you know? It's just a matter of time. Yeah. And of course, I started looking into him more, and I realised that has not really happened. Just dropping that one loss to Big Mo.
Yeah.
Only time he's been knocked out in 30 plus fights. So, wow. Yeah,
Prochazka's, he's a bit of a wild dude. I mean, there's the story King Mo talks about when he got matched up with Prochazka, like for the Rising tournament, and he said, like, who is this Czech bum? Like, who is this dude? Like, this guy sucks. And then he started fighting him. He was just like, oh my days, am I in trouble? And like, he said that he got lucky, basically. He hit the switch. And he was like, he had this thing of like, phew, thank God I got out of that one, because that was rough going. Obviously, Jiri had the rematch later on down the line, where, you know, Rising obviously wanted him to beat the guy who beat him and move on in his career. But, you know, he has like these weird wins towards the end of his run in Rising. He had the Brandon Halsey fight, he had the Fabio Maldonado fight, he had the CB Dollaway fight, if you remember CB back in the day, getting mashed into the ground because of Herb Dean's bad reffing. Before then, you know, Jiri then leaves to come over to the UFC. And yeah, it is quirky, weird, bizarre structure of fighting that he has, weird motions and quirks, ducks his head in and out, doesn't really put his hands up in defense, uses the lean. The lean is the main thing for him, and the sort of pivoting from there. But also, my chin is made of steel. Best of luck with that, lads.
From my reading of Jiri, it's that last point there, Joe, that is his primary defense. hit me with all you've got, and I will wade through the fire, and the hurricane will overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Certainly, Dominic Reyes experienced that in their fight.
Yeah, I mean, Reyes knocked him out in that fight. Like that's the mad thing about it, is he actually knocked him out, but he kept going, because if you remember the moment, Reyes is on his back and he up kicks Prochazka as Prochazka's coming around, and Prochazka said, "Yeah, that knocked me out," and as I landed, it woke me back up, and I was on top of him. I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'm still here. All right." And then he kept going. We were 2 seconds away from Dom Reyes beating Jiri Prochazka. Like, if he hadn't landed in the way he had, he would have just slid off of him, slumped over, and Reyes would have had one of the greatest knockouts ever. Like but that's Jiri.
Dom Reyes is certainly a parable. It's a career arc. What could have been?
Oh man,
for young Dom. But here we are. We have Jiri returning from his injury, and he's fighting Pereira. I mean, is it legitimate to match up Alex Pereira here for the belt? He's got the one win over Jan.
Yeah, I think that's fine. He had the middleweight title win over Izzy. He beat Jan in his debut. I think this is fine. I think light heavyweight is, for the most part, a bad division filled with very unique individuals. I don't know if you saw that video the other day of Johnny Walker dancing to some guy playing the saxophone in the street, like literally just doing the robot out there. In his fight gear, by the way. He's not even in camp. He was in his fight gear, just vibesing out. And that is light heavyweight, It's guys they got some skills in some domain, and they're all kind of mashed up together, and you kind of looking at it and you're like, why is Magomed Ankalaev like so unlucky? Like, he should be dominating, but he's really not. Like, that is light heavyweight, and I'm fine with Pereira getting this title shot, and in fact I'm very pro it, because how long do we have of this guy in the UFC? Probably not that long. Let's give him something interesting, let's give him something exciting, and Jiri Prochazka is that. So
suspend any guilt then, we can just fully enjoy it. And I mean, people are really excited for this one. It's that whole we said in the introduction there that we leant towards the kind of meme side of the UFC. You have Tekken fighters matching. That really I think that summarizes it. You got the tribal element in Powhatan, the bow and arrow, his native peoples, and taking inspiration from the goods of the forest.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got
concocting,
and you got Prochazka, who comes out from loved his time in Japan so much, took the Bushido spirit, has the unique hair, sits in darkness for 3 days so he's alone with his thoughts, goes to Iceland, goes under a waterfall. I mean, it is something like from a comic book in a way. It is from ridiculous painted imagery.
It's UFC 1, it's a throwback. It's a freak show fight.
My heart is just skipped a beat in excitement, honestly. Like, all right, it's brilliant.